Chapter 27, Labeling and/or annotating plan view and profile elements on plan sheets, or plan and profile sheets in our case here. Okay, we talked about this a little bit already, just the fact that there is a design file, which is the default here. You've got drawing files, which is the plan 1 views, and then you've got the sheets files. And we said that we are going to be doing all of our labeling and annotating at the drawing file level, drawing model level. And so if you're not there already, go ahead and select your plan 1 view. And you can see here that the view had, when the sheets were created in that last chapter, the view was automatically rotated and saved as a saved view. So you're looking at the plan sheet, horizontally, which is, of course, the way you would want your text. Makes placing text a lot easier. And so let's just first start off talking about the most basic way, I guess, to label that there is, and that would be something as simple as just placing text. So under your drawing production, we can select place text, and you'll notice that this looks a little different. I think the text editor is the same as it was in Power Geopack, but the place text dialog has changed. One thing I've noticed, that it appears that remember, there used to be a little triangle that would pop down, and you could manually just set the font and that sort of thing. Not sure if you can do that anymore or not. I don't even know. I honestly really don't even use that. Haven't for a long time. IDOT has wanted everybody to switch to what they call text styles, and they did that, made that change back in 2016. And when you use text styles, that does multiple things for you. Of course, it sets the font and the weight and the size, and it's set up to be annotated. It does a lot more for you. In fact, the most common one is probably this roadway text 120, and then the 3 dots, you open that, it takes you to the text styles dialog, and you can see all the attributes of a text style, and it's just one of those attributes is font, but then you've got the size set up, which that's set up to be annotated, justification, spacing, all that, so much more. Even like a background where you wouldn't have just had that strictly with text. That has to be part of a text style. So in any case, just regular place text is available. You probably want to start getting used to always working in the annotation mode. That's really the way the IDOT environment is set up. And so in that mode, of course, you always go up and you set your annotation to whatever you're working in. In this case, 50 scale, 1 inch equals 50. And so when I got to place text, though, if I'm dealing with annotated text, regardless of the scale, it's still going to be 120. 120 is still going to look the same on the sheet, relative to the size of the sheet, I should say. And that's a standardized text style. And you might say to yourself, well, it looks like there's a lot of text styles. I'm not sure which one I should use. And IDOT's also done a real good job of communicating what text styles they want IDOT and their consultants, to be using. And of course, their whole purpose is they try to standardize everything as much as they possibly can. So as you can see here, this is that. You probably have seen this before. It's just IDOT's road example. You can download this from, if you Google IDOT CAD support, there's a choice that says example plans. Download that, And then whatever you're working on, whether it be, the cover sheet or typicals, whatever, and it spells out what text styles that we should be using and what the kind of the look and feel. So we have a consistent look to our plans, regardless of who's doing the job. Okay, so let's, obviously it's got the angle, that sort of thing. I can just type in my station to station, whatever that may be. Put that. You probably want to set up your level and weight, so that none of this is really too new to ORD, other than, like I said, the basic text dialog did change. But I just wanted to mention too something I like. You may be interested too. Instead of just searching through and finding the level, personally I like to use what IDOT set up. It's right next to that. It's called Element Templates. And then if you use that for whatever it is that you're drafting, it's a little bit easier to find it. It's set up in that a hierarchy that probably makes a little bit more sense than looking through all of those levels. And so I typically use this one under Civil Labeler. There's also some under, annotation, different ones that you can use. There's actually it's categorized, and you can figure that out pretty easily. In any case, I probably use this one the most. This plan annotation with or without arrow. When I select that, then it automatically sets up my level, weight, and color and everything for me. Well, maybe not that one. I'm going to say by level, I think. Well, let's go. Yeah, we'll go that route. Okay, so that's really not much of a change. So in this ORD class, we probably don't need to be spending too much time talking about placing text. Really the same way with place note, kind of same deal. The only thing is, again, you probably want to be using your text styles. It might be a little more difficult trying to set your font and all that. This is definitely the way to go, definitely the way I'd recommend. Of course, if you do use place note, then that places your leader with or without arrows. And so for dimension style, just like that element template, I also here like to just use plan annotation, one or the other, for a style. And then some items require an arrowhead and others do not. So I guess, for instance, with an arrowhead, something like, say, proposed right-of-way. Let's see, we'll set my default to nearest, and there. You can label your right-of-way or, construction limits. So that's place note, which, again, not too much different, so won't spend too much time on that, but just showing you, that's still available. I know a lot of people just like placing the basic text and the basic notes. Now, of course, in ORD, you don't have the GeoPack Plan View Labeler because it's not GeoPack. Instead, they have, two different things. One called Text Favorites, and then they also have these cells that are set up for kind of automatic dimensioning, where kind of like the GeoPack Plan View Labeler, to where it knows what your station offset is, for example. So I could go to Place Label, and you've got two choices: text favorite or cells. There's some text favorites set up, but really not that many. I think the ones that are most useful right now, anyway, I think IDOT will continue to build on that, or we could even do that, or you can do that. Internally, it's not super difficult to create your own. but I'm not going to cover that, in this Road 1 class. But anyway, let's go with just what's most common. The most common is probably using the cell. Probably the most common I guess you'd call it like an automated text is this one, plan, PLN, station offset. And in this particular case, I think I didn't mean to pull that up. Let's go, say, without an arrowhead and let's go ahead and we will label a station offset for our proposed right-of-way. Now the way this tool works, this place label tool works, is that each time you got to place a label, it doesn't know what alignment that you're referring to. So you actually have to click on it first. So in this case, I want to label from my proposed alignment. So I'm going to click on that. And then I go down and snap to the whatever point on my right-of-way that I want. So I think I'll change my key points, or change my snap to key point. So I can snap to the end of the line. I'll kind of zoom in on this. At first it says 0, but then once you accept it, you'll see that the station and the offset is automatically populated. And it looks like if I'm going to continue to be labeling from that alignment, it looks like I just had to select it that first time. You don't have to select it every time unless you probably get out of the command, get back in, and then each time you'd have to key or click on whatever alignment it is that you are referring to, or wanting to pull a station offset, or whatever other piece of information that you want. It's really like an attribute that you're extracting. I guess we could still talk a little bit about, say, text favorites. I did start creating a few of my own. I could show you how, say, a text favorite could save you a little bit of time. Like, let's say with place note. We could type it in, and there's many different ways you could do this, many ways we could try to save time. Let me change my dimension style here to, say, with an arrowhead, and we'll label those construction limits. Of course, we can type that in, or we can copy and then paste it next time we do. Or the other way is that you could either use some of IDOT's text favorites, which there's probably not a whole bunch right now. They're super useful, but like on my last job, I started creating some just so I didn't have to keep typing the same thing in again. So construction limits were very common. So I'm going to select construction limits, see how it just automatically populates that. And I'm just in the place note command right now, but you can use the text favorites from multiple locations, from just placing regular text, place note, whatever. And then you don't have to type it in every time, you just hit the favorite. And so let's see, I'll go back and go to nearest, snap to my construction limits, and place it that way. Of course, I see my text is coming in different colors, whatever, so I can change my levels on that, no big deal. Or really, I could even, and this would be file based, if I wanted to, I could even open up the dimension styles and say change that, save it, and then it's saying, okay, you're overriding that dimension style only for this job. But then it's saying, okay, do you want to do that going forward, or do you want to change all the ones you've already placed? And you could say like yes to all, and then then you can see here how it corrected that note that I had already placed, and made the color the same. Okay, all right. So that's place text, place note, place label. We said we're going to talk a little bit about annotation. You probably remember just maybe a couple chapters back, was it? That we, no, maybe it's just the last chapter, I'm not sure. The one where we actually processed the sheets, or we created the drawing in the sheets file. And by default, I think the annotation was turned off for the plan view, but we turned it on, and so that's why we already have this north arrow here in place. It's District 5, it's at the proper rotation, at the proper scale, all that stuff. But you may have forgot, say, to place your north arrow. So let's get rid of that, and they don't really have too much set up in terms of this automatic annotation of plan view. They got a lot more set up with cross sections and profiles. But we could, for this design file, we could still annotate after the fact. And there's really two forms of annotation really up here at the top. One is more element specific, like say, I want to annotate just that alignment, or just whatever it is, just that one individual feature. Or there's more like file-based annotation. That's what the second one is, and so that's where I would find, in this case, that north arrow. So I just click on annotate the drawing model, and the first thing it asks me, it's like, okay, do you want to annotate just this model, or do you want to, or sheet, say, do you want to annotate just this one, or do you want to do all at the same time? So I'll say yes, and then it's showing me here that the annotation that IDOT set up. I could click that ... and kind of expand it out and see that they give you the choice of all the districts, so that it's really just that particular north arrow. It's not a new north arrow, but just a new way to place it. And then I can accept it, and then you can see it automatically places the north arrow, automatically places it at the rotation, which is fantastic. All those years of using various methods to try to get the right rotation. So I like to see that for sure. Okay, let's move on to labeling and annotating the profile view. So I'm going to switch to Profile 1 view. And we talked in the last chapter, I think, a little bit about this annotation, more of like I guess it was like not element based. Yeah, I guess it was more element based. But we had mentioned that special ditch strip grade elevation came in on top, so we ended up removing the annotation and replacing it and we did that by clicking remove right there. Got rid of the annotation, and then we ultimately put it back by clicking on, say, the proposed profile, reset. We got our annotation of the profile back, and that strip grade element. Then I think we still had to go in and click on the existing alignment and the special ditch profiles, I mean. Okay, so you've seen some of that automated annotation, and in that case, I guess that's a type of annotation where the text is being, it's automatically knows where to be placed and knows to place the grid, all those kinds of things. The other type of labeling that's kind of automated, it's really the same as the plan view. We can still we can use that plan, or place the label in with the cell, and then you probably notice in that cell name it says LBL for label, and then PLN for plan. Well, there should be a corresponding like profile one here, hopefully. Profile, station, and elevation. Yeah, let's use that. And then again, you may or may not want to use that particular dimension style. I'd probably I don't know. I like this one. Then I can just say with or without the arrowhead. And, the way that this works is we have to snap to the profile so it knows what it is that we're pulling this information from. So I may have to snap to it twice, kind of like we did with the plan. Yeah. Oh, and again, okay, so I'm going to have to go in, change, set up my level, weight, level, and all that, the colors and the dimension styles and all that. I'm not going to mess with that. We just showed you how to do that a second ago. And really, that is not changed. None of this is really, well, it's not real new to ORD. I would say in regards to dimension styles, or were available before, and they still are, and that you can still change any of that stuff and save it. And when you save it, it saves it just in that design file, that sort of thing. Okay. I think there's other ones too, like how you can name everything. Remember when we stored that special ditch profile? Virtually everything in ORD, when you assign that feature definition, you're also giving it a feature name. And so there are some labels in here and text favorites and things that if you wanted to use the name that you assigned, you can click on the profile and it would place that name. Now that may not be a great exemplar, but that kind of shows you that what's possible. Just like I think I said at the very beginning of this class, that ORD stores a ton of information based on, when you see anything in ORD like this profile line, like in Geopack in MicroStation, this would just be a one-time static deal, that a one-time static profile that you plotted, and it becomes like dumb text, dumb lines, all that once they're placed from Geopack, right? They're not tied in. But ORD, it associates all those attributes and more, a ton of information about anything. You can hover over things, you can go to an element info and see everything ORD knows about that piece of geometry, for example. Okay, we're probably starting to go a little long on this. Let me think. Anything else to talk about? Annotation, labeling. I guess the last thing I'd talk about, and this is something that is brand new. I think it was in this latest version. It's called the Civil Labeler. I wouldn't say it's really fully set up and ready to go yet. I mean, it is as far as Bentley is concerned. The tool's set up, but it's so new that IDOT support people have really not gone in yet and really fully modified these settings to correspond with, I would say, the IDOT environment. But I can see that certainly this is the way things are going. I'm sure once those guys get back from training, doing all the training that they're doing, I'd imagine they'll continue to develop this workspace. And or of course we could do it ourselves, but that takes time, and we do that to a certain extent, and others we rely on IDOT to provide that for us within their environment. So yeah, this is probably a good place to stop. Let's go ahead and end the chapter here.